From the inner sense of time comes the ancient poet's rhyme, bringing us the master key to open up the mystery. From the depth of time and space, we arrive in quiet grace, finding what is meant to be as we explore the mystery, pouring forth from days gone by. We can hear the poet sigh from the depth of ecstasy, moving into mystery. Hello and welcome again to Creative Connections, and today my guest is author and talk of the town, Keith Chouinard.
Thank you.
Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
So you have written a book about your life.
Yes, it's my autobiography. I wrote it a few years back. There's a lot in it that people have said that they've been surprised that I was so honest and put that much in it. But there's also a lot that I didn't put in it, and a lot that I originally put in it that I took out too. And there's a lot that's happened since I wrote the book as well.
Okay. So, it's always an interesting thing. What made you decide to write about your life?
Well, I actually knew ahead that I would have different books that I've written. I'd seen it in visions as well as a child. But I felt I really needed to write it to let other people know that they're not alone. So as a person that has had a full life of psychic visions in other extreme events that isn't normally considered normal or even real in the society that we live in. And I should say, in my opinion, the society that we live in is a culture that is really disillusioned and even so entrained into domestication and not fully conscious, or a lot of it not even conscious at all. Much of the society we live in believes that consciousness is psychological, and in my opinion, my experience, consciousness is actually spiritual. The more that you are aware of your spirit, then I believe that's consciousness. That's where you're coming from the spirit realm into this realm. And as a small child, I saw much of my life, if not all of my life ahead, including world events. So I will often say that I suffered post traumatic stress disorder as a child, as well as much of my life from that. So my perspective of life, of experience of life, is very different than what is considered the norm. And so in growing up and dealing with all of that and knowing that there are other people out there that experience that I'm not alone, that a lot of people experience things like that in many different levels, I felt that I really needed to write the book so that they would know that they weren't alone, and as well in it, write it in a way that they could find themselves in the book.
Okay. I think that there's such a pressure from a young age to conform. And I would imagine, having the experiences you did you feel a need to try to hide who you were when you were young?
Well, in the beginning, I thought some of the experiences I was having was normal and that everybody around me was having them. And then I realized that wasn't the case. And then when I started having the visions of different parts of my life, I saw much more about what was coming and what I was dealing with. I was seeing me at different points in my life. So I literally was seeing through my own ego states that I would be developing through life. So there were times that I felt I needed to conform in the sense to find safety, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are times that when you experience things of that magnitude, due to the fact of other people's comprehension, you end up finding that you have to basically limit your own being to fit into other people's perceptions so that they don't upset themselves, or so that you don't become in danger. So there's a lot that I don't speak of in the book for my own personal safety, but as well because some people wouldn't be able to handle those things.
Okay. In writing about your life, it would involve naturally, probably to some degree, your family. Did you talk with your family about writing this, or what was their reaction?
I didn't speak to my family on writing it, mostly. I spoke to my mother a little bit on it, but I knew, to be honest, that much of it in it that she might not comprehend anyhow. So I felt I was just going to be honest. But I did, on certain aspects of it, I didn't out anyone, so to speak, and say different names in different ways. So I was careful on not pinpointing certain things that I spoke of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think that a difficult thing in writing an autobiography is that we see our story through our lens, and other people will remember things differently sometimes. And, you know, I think that can sometimes cause problems with people. But it sounds like you kind of, anything that might be such, you sort of were non-specific and concentrated more on what you were.
Yeah, there's an area in the book that's a chapter on death, on passing over. And I started with the passing over of one of the dogs that I had and my experience of that, of it moving through the physical realm to the realm of spirit. And then that was sort of a metaphor, if you will, for another experience regarding someone else that died, and how I experienced their death through me. I was in my bed, and they were 2 towns over, and as they passed, the entire experience went through me. So being empathic, a person that is able to see, sense, and feel people's energy fields, I'm very much aware that we're not really solid objects, that we can feel other people's energies, and we don't have to be close to them at that time. They could be towns away or even on the other side of the country. So my sense of reality deals with a spectrum of that nature.
Okay. So where's your book start? What are your earliest memories?
So my book starts with one of the earliest memories of my father. And it's written from the ego state of me as that child. And so sometimes people reading the book at first glance might think, especially in the beginning, because that's the way it is, that a 5-year-old wrote the book in that way. But I decided to write many of the memories from the ego states of the memories themselves. And then there goes to points of it where it's more channeled messages from more of the adult me, if you will, or from a higher state of being. If you read the book from the beginning throughout to the end, you get a clearer picture of what I'm actually saying in it. I know a lot of people like to read books from different points, pick them up and such, and that can be fine. But in this one especially, there's a lot of things I snuck in there in different ways that you're not really going to get the full gist of what I'm saying unless you were present in reading it and read it from the beginning to the end, because I fill out some ending parts of stories towards the end that might not fully have all the content in the beginning.
Okay. It seems to me that that's kind of a risky thing to open the book in the voice of a 5-year-old, but it sounds to me like it works.
Well, I've had mixed reactions to the book, though I'd have to say most people that I've talked to have told me they cried through a pretty good amount of it. I've had a lot of people tell me that the book became about them, which is what I really wanted it to be, even though it's an autobiography, even though I tell about gut-wrenching stories of my life. I believe and I hope that I wrote it in a way that people would see things about themselves in it. They might see their responses or their reactions as well. They might look at how they view their sense of life and what life actually is, and really open up different doorways for them to become more awake and aware and conscious of their spirit.
Yeah, I think that's a good purpose of autobiography, is that in telling our story, other people hopefully see their story as well. Because we are, most autobiographies are written by celebrities, and we care about them simply because they're famous. But I love autobiographies of ordinary people, because there is a magic and mystique in ordinary lives. And there is that connection from one person to another. And it sounds to me like your book does that. It opens other people's eyes to their life and looking at yours.
Though I would say there's nothing ordinary about my life or my experience of life. But it is, well, for me, I see through many of my past lives as well. So this here, I don't really consider to be me. The bulk of who I am and what I am, and I think of everyone, truly is in another space and time, and we're actually emanating into this space, and my belief and my experience of that. So my awareness, some of my what people would call abilities, and so my senses, come from those other lives through time into this life. And so there are times that I speak, times that I do channeled work or do different types of holding space for healings and that sort of things, that is really from the energy of other lives that I see through. My awareness of Christianity actually comes through history of my experience of seeing Christianity through other lives, being aware of it through the space of time as things were written and changed as well, depending on who was in control of the Bible even, and how they changed it over times. So my perspective on life really comes from a different space than what your average person might see things from. And so I put some of that in the book as well, as different channel teachings, if you will, some of my experiences on it, but there's definitely a lot that's not in the book that will probably be in some of the future books that I'm working on now.
Okay. So in your experiences, how have your experiences affected the way you live your life now?
For a good part of my life, I've really hid a lot. I hid a lot from myself, and I hid a lot from other people regarding what I was actually experiencing. Still to this day, I do at times, especially if I know that what I'm seeing a person couldn't deal with. So even if I do, what we commonly refer to as a psychic reading type thing, there's a lot I don't tell people that I see, because if I can see that they're going to harm themselves with it, or if it's not healthy for them, then I'm not going to tell them. I will work to assist them to come to their own consciousness of it, their own perspective, and learn from those spaces. So being a child and seeing through much of my life, and seeing through the different states of ego of my life, I've learned to really transcend the experience of life. I've learned to transcend states of ego. The reason my office in West Brookfield is called Transcendence is because of that, because that word means much to me. So I don't believe that, as I said, that I'm really here. I don't believe any of us is really here. I believe that we're transcending through time and space, emanating through time and space from our soul via our spirit, and manifesting this physical body. And the more that you refuse to attach to the body, to your emotions, to your thoughts, to your feelings, and just transcend it all, the more that you can really move through time and space, the more that you don't identify and get attached to different things that we're not actually in that way, and we can be more alive, and we can have more abilities of seeing and sensing.
Okay. So a lot of these, would you say, call what you have a gift or just?
So a lot of people use that term,
Yeah.
and I've always felt kind of funny about that term because the way I look at it is I'm no better than anyone else. I'm not any more special. Just because I might at times have more consciousness of my spirit or be more conscious in that way, that doesn't make me any better than anyone. People often use the word extrasensory, and so they would say I would have extrasensory abilities. And quite frankly, I think it's sort of silly because they're not extra. I believe everybody has them. It's just a matter of whether they open to them or work with them. So when it comes to gifts, I use the metaphor in a way of that everybody was born with a bunch of presents, a bunch of gifts. Not everybody opens them. And so just like Christmas time, whether you open all those presents or you leave them there or you know they're even there. So I don't think everyone has to work with them and such as well. As I said, I don't think anyone's any more special in that relationship.
Okay. So let's put it that you have awareness that is beyond what a lot of people have. How do you use that to try to make life better for yourself and others?
Sometimes it's just, the spirit realm speaks to me at times and gets me out of trouble. If I'm driving my car and my music's a little too loud and I'm not paying attention, I literally at times will have my name screamed to me so loud that it's beyond this realm, literally. And I will turn the music off and pay attention, and 3 seconds later the car in front of me slams on their brakes. And so if I wasn't paying attention, for me, the more that I allow myself to be conscious and connected and aligned, the easier my life is. But at the same time, the more complex it can be too.
Right.
Especially because I often realize I can't, in a way, be as honest as I might like to with people because of how they will take that, or even how they'll take me. As a child, I had seen already much of what is still coming in my life that I'm aware of, and I've been at times hiding from it, backpedaling from it, sidestepping it and such, because there's certain things coming that I don't want to deal with, and it deals with other people's reactions to this realm of stuff, and I keep going back to it, and that's why I do the work that I do of helping people, the therapy work, is because I really think all of us would benefit much more if we raised the narrative of conversation in the society that we live in, to comprehend that these things are real. We live in a society that often believes in things they have no experience of. And so they don't have experience in these things, but they believe in them. Or on the opposite side of the spectrum, they disbelieve in things that they don't have experience in.
Right.
So like the psychic realm, the sensory realm, there's a lot of people that don't believe in it because they don't have any experience of it. But then they will believe in things that they lack any experience of. So a lot of that's assumptions. It's not actually belief. So I believe that actual belief comes from experience. So my beliefs come from my experiences, not only from this lifetime, but the lifetimes that I remember from other periods. And so I can go to other countries, and I have, and go to places I've lived that I remember, and then in those places have more memories flood back to me. And in a way, if I don't have an adult with me, I become a special needs kid and have to go through a lot from that. So I've been in England, say, and gone into buildings that I've lived in before, including a building that I actually owned before in another life, and had much recall come back. And some things that I can actually look through the history books on Google, say, not that you can believe everything on Google, but I've been able to look through them and find proof of what I'm seeing actually happened, proof of what I'm feeling actually happened in that way. But with that, I don't believe that we are ourselves, as weird as that might sound. I believe we project a self. And so many people are lost in their self. They're lost in their projection. Many people in society are lost in the group projections of every person. Politics is a huge projection thing where people are controlled by it because they're lost in that projection. So the more that you can see that you're not your projection, that you are that which projects, then you're able to transcend all of that and not get lost in it. So your own consciousness isn't lost in the projection. And that's why many people are unable to have more of an access to their senses, is because they're lost in their projection. Or they're lost in thinking they are their emotions, and then they subjugate their life to their emotions, as opposed to they're that which may or may not have different emotions. I mean, I don't even consider that I am my life. I have an experience of life. So even the other lives that I see through, I wasn't those lives. I was that which experienced those things. So it's all about non-attachment and letting go.
All right. Now you do Reiki work. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I work with what is labeled Holy Fire Reiki, and it's an evolution of what is considered Yasui Reiki. And so what that really is really working with the alignment of your spirit. So Reiki is a Japanese term. In English, it means spiritually guided life force. So for me, if I believe that my spirit is, say, in the arms of God, my soul is in that space, my spirit's emanating from that, then I'm looking to have alignment from that place into this space as I'm incarnating and manifesting a physicality here. So Reiki really allows you tools to help with that alignment, to be spiritually guided in it. So I do facilitate sessions in it, but I also facilitate teachings of it. But it's really an experiential type of working with higher vibrations of energy with our actual spirit and letting go. So when you really work with that, it's really helping you become more spiritually conscious.
Okay. So it's not so much body work as it is spirit work.
Yeah, it's more on the spirit realm, though a lot of people will do a laying on of hands or slightly off, and you might see that as somewhat as a body work. But for me at this point, oftentimes I'm on the other side of the room, opening to the energy and working with the client. And oftentimes when I really go into that space of it, so to speak, that's when they say they have the biggest experiences. And sometimes it's experiences that they won't even tell other people because they're too huge. So it's an interesting life to experience that, but as well to meet people and see how they are when they come for sessions in the beginning, and then over a period of time see how their lives totally transform, and they really open to more love as well as their spirit, which I personally think that's where love comes from that higher realm.
Yeah. Now you work out of Transcendence, which is in West Brookfield, and you also are starting to work out here in Ware.
Yeah, a couple months ago, I started having some visions regarding the fact that I was needing to open a store in Ware and do some work here. And so over the period of months, those all played out. And now next to Hannah Divine's at 85 Main Street in Ware, we have Talk of the Town. So it's an eclectic store, which has antiques, shabby chic, crystals, gemstones, essential oils, many different things in it. But in the back of it, we're reorganizing to have an area for classes and circles and talks, which is why it's called Talk of the Town, is because of the talks, and I sometimes like to talk.
Yeah, I think it's such, eclectic is a wonderful word for it, because it is a little bit of everything. You have, like you say, the crystals and the gemstones, essential oils. You have the soaps that you and Mark make. There are various artists who have items there. There's some furniture. So it really is sort of a very unique kind of general store type of thing.
Yeah, we've been trying to work it to make it an experience, and an experience of life, if you will. So in life, we have physical things, and then we have spiritual things. So there's a blend of that. And having the area for the classes and the circles and talks and different types of sessions that I work with really helps a person to be able to come in and sort of investigate a little bit without feeling like they have to be committed to anything. Check us out, see what it feels like, and then go from there. And then have all the different types of things that they could possibly have for their house as well.
Right. You had a shop up in West Brookfield at one point, and it seems to me that Talk of the Town as I say, is more kind of a variety of things, but it's good because it still allows you to do the work that you do.
Yeah, the Holistic Center was the store that I had before, and I had that for quite a few years. And it was an apothecary. We had a lot of crystals and stones, and it did really well. But it got to the point of having a store where it's open, it's retail, people can just come in, and me being very empathic was dealing with a lot of things with that. So I just decided I really needed to have a few years of not doing retail, and so I went privately with clients and students and created it as Transcendence. But now it's really feeling like it's the time to come forward more and really work to raise the narrative of society that these things are actual reality.
Okay, so your book is called Awakening Spirit, and let's hold that up for folks to see. And where can people get the book?
So it is available on Amazon. So you can buy it on Amazon. You can also get it at Talk of the Town in Ware, as well as my office in West Brookfield.
Okay. And is it available on Kindle as well?
It's not available on Kindle at this point by purpose. So I really wanted to have it a book that you could hold, that you could write in if you wanted, that you could dog-ear it if you wanted. So it would be more personal in that way. We might at some point make it on Kindle, but I really feel it's something that you really should hold and feel the paper and the weight of it versus on an electronic thing.
Okay. All right. Keith, I look forward to sitting down and reading the book. I had hoped to get to it before we talked, but after talking with you, I'm even more anxious to read it. So, and I want to thank you for coming in and for sharing your life with us.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time on Creative Connections. From the inner sense of time comes the ancient poet's rhyme, bringing us the master key to open up the mystery. From the depth of time and space, we arrive in quiet grace, finding what is meant to be as we explore the mystery, pouring forth from days gone by. We can hear the poet sigh from the depth of ecstasy, moving into mystery.